Good day, Dean Abante. I am Kristen Macy Esperanza of MPA 1Y2-8 of Modular Class, and I will be discussing about Executive Leadership and Supervisory Development. Chapter 3, The Supervisor or Manager as a Teacher. So, learning objective. First, understand that it is necessary to establish the competencies needed by employees to carry out their appropriate work assignments prior to the time that you develop training programs and training methods. Know the employees learn even if they are not being properly trained, and that when this learning process is poor, it may have adverse effects. Third, understand the reason for providing trainings to personnel under one's supervision. Recognize that you, the supervisor manager, are responsible for the training. Fifth, understand the difference between training for a specific task and developing a training program for overall improvement or advancement within the firm or organization. 6. Understand how people learn in order to teach individuals their job and how to improve performance on the job. 7. Recognize that the development of an individual can occur both on the job and off the job. Know some effective methods for promoting employee development and recognize appropriate training methods. So first, determining competencies needed by employees. A substantial part of the supervisor manager's job is to teach. A supervisor manager imparts knowledge and skill to the employee. As a teacher, the supervisor or manager strives to increase the speed and efficiency of employees. If the employees are well trained, they can therefore function in a satisfactory manner. And the most important part of this training consists of the intensity of the supervisor or manager's teaching, the frequency of the teaching, and how recent the supervisor manager's own personal experience in a given area has been imparting this knowledge to the employees. Part 2. Employees learn without being trained. Employees will learn whether you train them or not. Unfortunately, the untrained employees tend to learn the wrong things, and it is far more difficult to correct the errors associated with initial poor learning than to take an individual who has no experience at all and training him or her in a proper manner. So, reason for trainings. Training is necessary in all situations. The type of training varies with the complexity of the job and the experience of the individual and the ability of the individual and the supervisor manager who is training the employee. Training is frequently needed when a supervisor or manager or higher level manager recognizes that there are excessive absences and too many individuals either quitting or being fired. There is a large number of complaints and grievances being filed. There is repeated lateness, morale is poor, the accident rate is excessive, the level of production is low, the work produced is of poor quality. So the supervisor manager's responsibility for training. Training new employees and retraining of older employees, which is typically based on specific competencies needed to perform tasks, is a primary responsibility of the supervisor or manager. The good supervisor manager usually is a good teacher, and the poor supervisor or manager is likewise usually a poor teacher. So the supervisor manager teaches by using demonstration, illustration, and experiments were helpful. And the supervisor manager allows ample time to participate in each of the job tasks. Finally, the supervisor or manager examines or tests the individual's employee in an informal manner to assure that the employee fully understands the skills previously taught. Next, the nature of training and developing and its value. Training consists of the first line supervisor, manager utilizing the skills and knowledge which she has acquired in an informal manner to upgrade or enhance the skill knowledge of the employee. So, Each of us is a sum total of our experience. We are what we learn from formal situations, our environment, watching others, and many other situations in life. Unfortunately, when employees are not formally trained, they have tendency to develop their own guidelines, which may in effect be very poor. Sixth, differences between training and program. Training is preparing an employee for a specific job and a specific type of acceptable performance on the job. Training emphasizes special learning and skills necessary to carry out the specific job. Basically, training simply teaches the employee how to do and not how to think. Development is how the individual grows and improves in a variety of areas. It does not focus on special skills, particularly job, but on the employee's general growth within the organizations as an individual. And development is more often applied to supervisors, manager, and higher level management personnel rather than the employees unless the employee have supervisor or manager potential. Next, learning theory and training for adults. The learning process for adults is somewhat different than for children. Adults must be given more time to process information and learn skills, but typically once this is done, it remains with them far longer than it does with children. Adults may have poor habits which will have to be corrected in order to make the individual a good employee. So all adults can learn to communicate better verbally and in writing. Trainers must recognize the adults may be insecure in learning the situation and therefore need to receive personal attention and thoughtful assistance when needed. So learning must be accompanied by continuous repetition for many people. So learning can be achieved behavioral change and consists of the following. First, reading and understanding the objectives of a given skills or job. Surveying the entire job rapidly to get an overview of what is occurring. Third, looking at and observing material on a variety of visual aids. Fourth, being shown the job slowly with the supervisor or manager. Fifth, determining what questions you have concerning the various aspects of the task or job. 6. Trying to answer these questions yourself. 7. Asking the supervisor or manager a question to determine how accurate you are. 8. Attempting a job or task under the direct observation of the supervisor or manager. 9. Having the supervisor or manager make necessary correction in the work. 10. Rereading the material and once again developing the kinds of questions which will help make the job more understandable. 11. Practice of the job or task. Continued observation by the supervisor or manager and critical comments. Next, self-testing by the individual. 14. Rewarding yourself for carrying out your job successfully. Last, the supervisor manager rewarded the employee by complimenting him or her or some other reward. Next is teaching suggestions. In order for the supervisor or manager to be a good teacher, he or she must first be a good student. The supervisor or manager must be motivated, willing to learn, willing to practice various tasks and jobs, and willing to reinforce individual learning with additional study. So the supervisor or manager must have the ability to put an employee at ease. So a good teacher should know the subject well off and offer the students clear and accurate and complete information. The supervisor manager should start with the known and lead into the unknown and describe the existing procedures, introduce new procedures and try to relate them to existing procedures. And it is important for the supervisor manager to give an overview of the problem. So never ramble, but speak slowly, directly, and clearly. Give reason for each step in the process. and the procedure or method may be demonstrated by the supervisor or manager, or it can be demonstrated by someone else while the supervisor or manager describe it. It is essential that the employee ask questions as needed, and the employee should have the opportunity to demonstrate the procedure step by step and explain the procedure as if he or she were the teacher. And emotions plays an important part in the teaching and learning process. The supervisor or manager should always maintain enthusiastic interest, and the supervisor or manager should check to see how well the information is retained. So, types of training. In a working situation, you may use a variety of training techniques in order to teach the various roles, tasks, and functions of the employee. The types of training should fit the needs of the job and the types of individuals who will be utilizing the training material. And the best role of training consists of a formal presentation backed by informal presentation, real training and experience, evaluation of what has been achieved, and finally retraining when necessary. Next, on the job development. Employee development consists of first, allowing the individual to assist the supervisor or manager in certain situations. Second, giving the individual an opportunity to obtain further formal schooling by means of financial support for classes and technical schools and universities, or by means of financial support for students who work on self-study courses or courses delivered electronically. Third, providing the motivated individual with special in-service courses that can be taken within the organization. Fourth, providing the motivated individual an opportunity to carry out assignments other than those usually done. Fifth, assigning the individual certain specific low-level supervisory or management tasks that are closely supervised by the first-line supervisor or manager. Six, coaching the individuals on how to improve himself or herself in various areas. 7. Providing job rotation so that individuals get a better understanding of what is occurring in the overall organization, and thus sending the individual to specific short-term courses to learn specific body's knowledge. So, of the job development. So, the motivated employee can achieve self-improvement by going to technical school, colleges, attending short courses, taking courses delivered electronically, or seeking other types of training individually. Obviously, as the organization watches the individual develop from his or her own efforts, the company should then step in and provide the necessary support to turn off the job development into the job development. Next, supervisor manager training development. So, supervision is a learned skill, not a born trait. It is true that some individuals have great leadership abilities and use this ability very effectively, even though they may never had formal training in leadership skills. So we became or will become supervisor or managers because are good. Next, what to tell a new employee. So the supervisor or manager or other designated person should cover the following major points. First, how the employees will be paid, when or he or she will be paid, what are the pay deductions, and what can you anticipate as your total net pay, and exclusive of overtime. Second, the work hours, when the day start and finish, the length of the lunch period, and when breaks are allowed. Third, how overtime pay compensatory time for overtime is given. Fourth, explain how time cards or check-in sheets are used, where they are located and when used. Fifth, how the employee should report sick leave and how much sick leave employees are entitled to and how it may be used. So, excessive sick leave will be investigated. 6. Problems and penalties concerning lateness. Next, where employees can find the various personal facilities such as shower, bathrooms, and locker rooms, where the first aid facilities are located, how and to whom accident should be reported, Next, what the basic fire rules are and how they are carried out. 11. Understanding of all procedures pertaining to the use and care of personal protective equipment. 12. What is the basic safety rules and how they are carried out. 13. What is expected of a new employee and what they can be expected of the supervisor or manager and the employer working or where the new employees will be working. Next, training methods. The employee may be taught in any following ways. First, individual instruction, where the supervisor or manager works with the individual on a specific skill or set of skills. Second, group instruction, where the supervisor or manager or trainer give basic facts or concerning the job, tells the important reason for a new method, and then may follow up with individual instruction. Third, lecture, where the basic or supplementary information is given the individual. Fourth, demonstration, where a person is able to see how something is carried out and then has an opportunity to practice it himself or herself. Fifth, conference, where supervisor or managers and administrators attempt to resolve problems, and a conference may also be used for an individual to solve a specific problem such as lateness. 6. Meetings, where there is an exchange of information and ideas between individuals. Meetings are usually used at supervisory upper level management or professional levels. 7. Written instructions in a clear and concise manner. These instructions are usually used to set forth policies. 8. Oral instructions, which may be on one-to-one or one-to-many basis, and the oral instruction attempts to achieve an immediate response. 9. Teaching machines, where the individuals obtains bits of information in a program manner, is tested on these bits of information, and then moves on. 10. Self-study courses, where the individual has an opportunity to learn on his or her own, use the material which is presented, practice with the material, and attempted to use the new information in work-related situation. 11. Teaching modules, presented by various organizations and governmental units and computer-assisted. 12. Webinars, where experts typically discuss single topics and present the material in such way that the individual is able to learn it and utilize it appropriately. So apprentice training. Apprentice training is useful means of teaching someone on the job skill and includes the novice learning a technical skill such as plumbing or electricity plant under a registered individual who has experience. The student teacher put into the classroom under the guidance of experienced teachers. A student involved in an internship or practicum concept. An internship is the best way to prepare students for the professional field, and someone who has been in the professional field, such as an internship, the person becomes far more skilled and a much better employee when he or she enters their. That would be all, and thank you.